Today, we are gonna learn about approach, method, and technique. Tiga dan Tarika Bulan. In language technique, in the general area of teaching methodology, people talk about approach, method, product, and technique. This course will help clarify the meaning of these integrated terms and provide example of each.
Okay, the number one is approach. An approach is a set of correlative assumptions dealing with the nature of language and the nature of language learning and teaching. Approach is the level at which assumption and belief about language learning, and language teaching. Different people may agree with different belief and assumption dealing with the nature of language learning and teaching. Assumptions or belief may be taken for granted. People do not have to come to an agreement about the assumption. Therefore, in language teaching, there are different assumptions about language and language teaching. Commonly, the following assumptions may explain the nature of language. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, approach also includes assumptions about language learning and language teaching. Assumptions about the nature of language in themselves are not complete and need to be completed by theories about learning or teaching. There are many theories of learning and teaching. Maybe, for example, Richard and Roger suggest that a learning theory underlying an approach or method respond to two questions. What are the psycholinguistic and cognitive processes involved in language learning? Two, what are the conditions that need to be met in order for this learning process to be activated? In general, an approach has the answer to the two questions, but certain method may only emphasize one of the two dimensions. From assumption about language and language learning, a method will be developed. There can be methods within one approach. And next is these are the types of approach to learning and have their respective strengths, such as, for example, we have two different stronger low tech and high tech. Low tech are direct instruction, kinesthetic learning, different instruction. That is, I think they are low tech, but we can use the useful technique like flipped classroom or inquiry-based learning, expeditionary learning, and many more. Next, his method will be reading by Teresa Bulan.
Okay. Method. A method which is developed based on some assumptions of an approach includes the whole plan for the presentation of language material. Since the plan is developed based on the same assumptions, no part of the plan contradicts and all parts make a unity. So the unity of a method makes the method distinctive, even though some assumptions of some other assumptions may be developed from different theories. How little the difference is built with the unity of a method is different from others. There have been many methods that have been introduced in language teaching. To mention some, audio language method, the silent way, Wikipedia, community language learning, natural approach, total physical response, and communicative language teaching. This paper will only address procedure of some of the methods which may be applicable in the Indonesian context. Next slide. Next slide. Dale, next slide. Dale, next slide. Another way of looking at methods in language teaching has also been suggested by Richards and Rogers. At 1986, about 16, they state that at the level of design, the objectives of language teaching, language syllabus, content are determined. All the level of design, the role of language teachers, instructional materials are also specific. A method is theoretically related to an approach organized by design and practically realized in procedure. Using Richard and Rogers terms, method includes approach, design, and procedure. Even though their description of method is different from Anthony's, basically the two are similar, in the sense that a method should include assumptions about language and language learning, and it will be realized in a set of techniques of presenting materials to language learners, which is often called procedure. The difference between methods can be easily observed from their techniques. Next slide. Okay. Techniques.
Language teaching, as mentioned earlier, the technique is implementation, meaning that the technique is something that actually takes place in language, teaching or learning in the classroom. All activities that take place in a language class are techniques. Techniques are not exclusive to certain methods. To some extent, different methods to may have similar techniques, even though they must have different technique. Language teacher might develop their own technique as long as the techniques are still consistent with the assumption or theory or of the method from which the technique derives. Technique not only include the presentation of language material, but also the interpretation of the material. Therefore, the position of a technique is at the implementation phase. It often called procedure, will approach, and the method are the level design. The following example of the technique is error correction can be below. Next, a number way to conceptualizing approach, method, and technique might have been proposed. Different people might have different ways to conceptualizing them. Understanding how people conceptualize the term will to provide language teacher with clear picture of language teaching method. This misunderstanding may avoid the teacher from understanding the concept among themselves. Following certain methods, language teacher may be expected to develop their own technique by considering the underlying principle of the method. Approach and the method are relative permanent, but technique might be adapted to the environment of the language learner and a language teacher to produce to procedure of the method which compares a satanic minor prefixes, even so the assumption of the approach and the basic principles of a method are relative fixes. Next. First, we have a silent way. The silent way is the teacher does not praise or critique so that language learners to realize themselves. Like the teacher show the learner small red screen throughout a bigger blue one. Say the blue one is bigger than a red one, like that. And audiolingual method is the teacher often prized when a student has made a good thing learner. The three, total physical response when a student has product a wrong expression, the teacher just repeat right one. And four, delay or preference. And natural method, the teacher does not care when student make an error as long as it does not hinder or delay or prevent communication. Uh, that's all. We are sorry if there are if you, Dale.
Nothing is for our presentation. Thank you for all of your attention. And
Aduh anjing.